Hello, and we're live, Matthew. We are live. We are live for the first podcast of Control Alt Teach. So some of you might have seen our little teaser. So we'll give a little nod to that, and well done to anyone who figured it out. Me and Matthew, we both sent a little mystic post off into the LinkedIn verse. And so yes, me and Matthew Wemyss, we are doing a podcast.
We are indeed. It's great to be here across the seas.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we're international. This is an international.
We are an international podcast.
We're an international podcast, and I suppose let's first of all just elaborate on the why. So I actually approached you. I'd been thinking about it for a little while of doing one. I had no clue what I'd want to do it about. I just love the idea of having a chat and a natter, but also just about work in a way. So for me, I like the idea of it being a bit of CPD and chatting to interesting people. I mean, it's when you sort of listen to podcasts and you get to really get a sense of their people's stories and their history and what they're up to. I just find it dead interesting. And so I like the idea of it. And I thought, actually, if we do an Edtech one, I know just the guy. And so I pinged you a message, and you said you weren't sure. You said, yeah, maybe at first.
Maybe, yeah, I was maybe, and then I immediately put an order in for a microphone, and that came the next afternoon. And then I got some new lights, and then I was like, maybe this is happening. So no, but it's great. Like same as you, like I'm increasingly listening to more and more podcasts to learn stuff. On the odd occasion, I'm on my own in the car, and Bucharest is, as you might, I don't know if you experienced the traffic when you were here. Sometimes you can be, it's like a car park most days. So it's actually a good environment for podcast listening. So you can just sit down and kind of really get into an episode.
Yeah. No, funny enough. So for any of those who don't know, I first physically in person met Matthew when we were at your AI conference, the very first one, AI Education. How do you say it? Is it AI Education?
I'm not sure. This is the thing, though. There's a marketing expert who runs an event called Brand Minds in Bucharest, and it gets people from all over the world. It's like mainly business focused. So we spoke to him and we said, let's come up. We're looking for a name for the events. Let's call it AI in Education. And then he was like, no, make up your own word. Call it AI Education. And then it kind of just, the owner of the school kind of liked it. And then it just became the name of the event. AI Education is how I say it. That's probably the how I try to make it flow. But yeah, there's multiple interpretations, just like my last name. Like everyone says it differently, but no. But yeah, it was a great event, and that is the name we're sticking with at the moment, at least for next year.
I like it. I like it. I just get scared that I say it wrong sometimes. So AI Education, that's where we first met, and that was in Bucharest, and it was a roaring success. We had a great time. I say we and my business partner for Inventor Club. So that's our company. We were out there and we were running some sort of design thinking sessions with how to include AI in that process and ideate and so on. And we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. So that's when we first met together. And like I said, I don't think traffic was that bad. We were quite lucky. We were there at I think it was a weekend? It was a Saturday.
You came a Friday afternoon. I think everyone leaves roughly. Bucharest empties at the weekends. Everyone either goes to the mountains or the beach. So I think you caught a good Friday afternoon. And then you left super early, I think, on the Sunday, so you probably didn't see anything.
No, we didn't know. It was a super flying business visit for us. We felt like genuine jet setters that weekend. Fly in, fly out, just one suitcase full of cardboard knives and glue guns. But we'll be looking forward to coming back this year. We're going to touch on that a little bit later, so I'm not going to say too much more. So I suppose I'm going to get stuck in then to our sort of first bit, and bear with us, by the way. This is going to be this is our first ever pod together, recording our own for one. So there's going to be a bit of mumbling, a bit of fumbling. Matthew's on the gin already. I've got the bud, so I suppose there'll be more fumbling as we go. But let's get stuck into sort of why and what we want to chat about, which is EdTech. And so we're coming to the end of the year at the moment. So we're actually, I mean, we could do a whole section on this. We might do a pod later. But it is election day in the UK today. So we are recording on election day. This is when everyone's polling and going in. So the education landscape could look very different. Potentially, I say very different, potentially in the future. We'll see. But yeah, so we might do a bit more on that later. But so EdTech, how has your year been? We're coming towards the end of the year as well. So we're in July at the moment now. So I've got 2 weeks left. You're already broken up.
Yeah, we've been up since Friday, yeah.
Yeah, so just a little bit of context for everyone. So again, this is another reason why the pod, I particularly wanted to do it with you, is because we're both in very different points in our digital strategy journeys and also in very different contexts. So you're at a private school in Bucharest. I'm a state school here in the UK. And actually, we just wanted to sort of see how they go and compare against each other. We're going to have guests on in the future. We've got guests coming. We've got a massive list, the length of our arms at the minute, of people we're going to get in touch with. So hopefully we'll be tapping some of you up shortly for guest spots. But yeah, so how's your year been? How have you been wrapping up?
Good. I think the end of the year is just, it's madness no matter where you are. There's just so many decisions that need to be made, and it all kind of bottlenecks into the last week. But you know, it's been great. And I think for EdTech wise, like the whole kind of AI boom kind of focus has really helped breathe new life into EdTech. And I think it's shone a bit of a light, like on teaching practices and making people rethink things in general. But I think it's especially like drilled down into EdTech and what is good EdTech, and kind of almost shining a light on, has kids having iPads, has that really revolutionized things? Has that really changed the game that much? So having those conversations with, how can we use our technology better? And also just a general focus on digital literacy now. I've had teachers come up to me who before probably could have never got them into an IT lab, could have never got them to bring their kids in there to do like activities in there, and now super keen, buying into digital literacy, really keen to find out more. So I think this general kind of digital AI hype bubble, like I'm just going to ride that wave, because it seems to be like pushing a lot of buttons that I wanted to push myself, and winning a lot of people over. And it's kind of, we're ending the year with like a nice kind of strategy ahead. I had a few good meetings with the heads of the department before the end of the year. So we're set up quite nicely to come back in August and have like some bigger like how we're going to slot all this stuff together. But it's been a good year in general. Been a pretty positive. How's your year been?
Yeah, it's been good. So I had a big change up in January. So I moved school. So I'd strategy wise. So I was digital lead for a state school in Swindon, and we had been on our journey. We'd done our 5-year plan. So we had gone from old school projectors and desktops in classrooms and all that stuff. We developed, put a refresh plan in place, and I'd got that strategy to a point where it was going to happen with or without me. Which I was really, really happy with. And we'd gone to interactive panels. I mean, the last thing I put in place were VR headsets. We were just starting to explore and experiment with those a little bit as I was on my way out. So I'd gone from what was quite a very forward-thinking school to another school in the Cotswolds, another state school, but they are very far behind. There's been no development there for them at all. So I've gone right back to old school projectors, desktops, and all sorts. So I joined there in January. And so part of our strategy has been really getting the IT team sorted. We were going right back to the foundation, looking at personnel. So we were trying to get a technician for a long time. So we still don't have one. We don't have a technician at the moment. And then even worse still, our network manager then handed his notice in. So he found a school that was literally around the corner from him. They were paying him slightly, a little bit more. It was a grammar school. They were doing some bring your own device work at the time as well. So it was a project he wanted to be involved with, and we wished him well. And unfortunately, he left us. But we're currently hopefully appointing someone at the moment. So that's been a big point for us, because you can't really do anything if you haven't got that specialist technical knowledge and you can't look after your infrastructure. Like I said, AI is going to fall down and it's going to fall flat if you haven't got devices that work. You can't access it. So I can do as much digital learning because that's my title there at the school. I'm the what am I? I'm the lead practitioner for digital learning. You can't have digital learning if you haven't got digital. So a lot for
Yeah,
us is real
you've got to,
infrastructure at the moment.
and that's the thing for us. Like I've tried to like different platforms, different tools. You try to launch a website with staff. There's always a little kind of back end API, and you need the IT manager there on call to know exactly what they're doing, to get those things unlocked, to get things ready for you. And
Yeah.
that's always, you just need someone with that specialist knowledge to make sure it's done safely as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's another one, isn't it? It's safely, because again, you probably find this as well. You have a lot of head departments come to you with new services or new platforms online that they want to go with, and the privacy policies never cross their mind. They've not looked at it, and then that's got to sort of be looked at when you're looking at safe rollout. Particularly with AI now, you have to really doubly check and make sure where that training data is going, where the results are going. Can you track what the output is, and so on? There's a lot of that kind of needs to be considered from even just a safeguarding point of view before it gets rolled out.
Yeah, and that's one of the advantages I've had. As I randomly I moved offices mid of the year. I spent most of my year in the I used my office is the IT lab usually, but I have like an office space. But I ended up moving in with the safeguarding lead, which was actually really a nice link up for what I wanted to do, because we could just talk things through straight away and get kind of go through and unpick everything along the steps for any risk assessments for any platforms and things like that.
Yeah, it's nice having that collaborative area right there, and you can have access. I don't actually have an office. I'm still roaming at the moment because I'm bouncing between business manager to head teacher to heads of department, working with other assistant heads. So again, another thing, we've gone back to basics. We're looking at how we get Sims online a little bit more. So we've used Edulink in the meantime. So for those of you in the UK, fairly big platform which brings Sims online and cloud-based. Sort of, it's like a wrapper essentially for Sims. And so for us, that's important, so we can just access data at the right times and on multiple devices instead of having to be in school and so on. So I'm kind of at that level of just getting infrastructure right and access for a lot of people, to be fair. So we're sort of wrapping that up for the year, and then we're going to develop more on that next year. So I know you were saying there you've got a couple of things in the works for heads of department next year. So is this all AI stuff, or is this curriculum development?
No, like this is the thing. Like AI is like a little add-on, like a 2% add-on to my job. But one of the big focuses has been digital literacy more than anything. So we've been looking at that. We've come up with a map. We started, it ended up being, because I did some work with some students towards the beginning of the year, but that kind of drifted. It was year 12 students. They kind of drifted off as they went towards exam season. But we just came up with a series of big questions from like years 5 all the way to year 13 for each term, for each half term, sorry. So for each half term, we came up with a big question linked to AI, digital literacy, like future careers. One of the things inspired by the work you and Ben did was the Ideas Lab, which I can talk about a little bit later. Where we took what you guys did and kind of rolled that out to something we could do in like form time activities. But we've looked at that digital literacy, and I said, like, these are all the big questions. I am not beholden that if this is the year 7 term 1A question that you think about that big question, that unit, you try to make it work anywhere that you can in year 7. So the heads of the department have been through and kind of mapped that against their curriculum. And most of it just means a little bit more of like using Excel in maths and in history, doing a bit more general digital functional skills stuff, which you, as being a computer science teacher now for 13 years, usually just gets relegated to computer science.
Yeah.
And the science department just draw them on paper. The maths department do everything on paper. So, as I said at the beginning, it's been quite nice that people have taken those big questions and then gone, okay, it's a little bit more of an imperative now for me to do some more stuff with digital tech, because they feel more like this is where it's going to go. And I think announcements about exams being on screen and things like that potentially in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Just these little things are like waking people up a little bit, I suppose. And it's been nice that people want to have these conversations one thing we thought of for computer science is usually there's like an Excel or a PowerPoint unit, and it's like tagged on at the end of the year. So we're looking at how we can do like the first 6 weeks as almost like a little refresher course or like a functional skills course. So we can go, okay, everyone in all the other subjects, all the year sevens, by the end of the first 6 weeks, they can all do X, Y, Z. Okay, you guys can now run with this and do this in your curriculum. So you know if you want to make a chart in maths, get them on the tablets, you can get them in the IT lab. We've done a refresher. They know how to make charts again. They haven't forgot it over the summer, and you haven't got to teach them from scratch. So
And that's going to be
that's
all
one.
subjects.
That's going to be across. We're going to do that from computer. We're going in computer science. We're going to do this little like mini refresher course when we come back for years 5 to 9. The other course has been the GCSEs. But we'll do that little refresher course, and then we'll go, okay, everyone, I'm contemplating some kind of micro credential or something like that. I need to figure it out over the summer. But all the kids will get a little diploma saying they've got this level of skill in these platforms. Feel free to use these platforms in all your subjects. You don't need to teach them how to use them. We've covered that for you. It just seemed more logical to move those more IT-centric units from the end of the year to the beginning, because then other people can capitalize on it. I don't know why it took 5 years for me to think of it.
No, you're right. That's such a good idea. And that is what we done at my last school to get Google training. So about 3 years ago, we moved over to being a Google school, and we went one-to-one devices. And it was COVID. So we'd always planned to Googleize. And that was my role at the time. I was Google, I think it was Google Master or something. It was some weird TLR nickname that I'd got. And we'd transferred over, we migrated over, and we'd always planned to do one-to-one, but it was going to go right year 11, then we'll roll it down to year 10, and so on over the 5 years. But COVID happened, and we did a survey, and we found, I think it was something silly, like 67% of our students were accessing work on their phone or a parent's phone. And when we knew we were giving out devices, we were going to go for it. So we just changed our order, and we went all years, all at once. And we were like, right, when we come back off the first lockdown, that's when we started to roll it out. But then obviously you've got to train up to we were just shy of 1,000 students at that point. And every single one of them had access to a Chromebook. And so we needed to do some training on that. And it was mad. Afterwards, we just how do we fit it in? And we did exactly that. We took the first term of computer science lessons for that first year was for all year groups. And then the following on from that, it was just year 7. The first term was always Google. So we made our own mini badges. I made them on Canva. And they looked cool. I'll find them. I'll put a picture on. I'll tell you what, if I'm editing this, I'll put it up now. See, this is a reminder. I put this little badge up because there was an extension, a Chrome extension you can get. And you just make a real simple Excel sheet, but you put the student's email in. So once they'd done and completed the assignment that we'd set for that particular thing, so we'd do like Google Docs. Once they'd done the Google Docs lesson and done all the features within that was the sort of assignment, we'd then put their email in this Excel sheet, and it just emailed straight to them the PNG of that badge, and they would earn it. They would keep that badge, and they could upload it, nice. Put it on their email tagline.
You have to show me how to do that.
Yeah, mate, I'll find it. It's generally, if you look at it, like I said, you Google it and find it. It was just a Chrome extension, and I was like, that's perfect. It's exactly what we need. And we made like our own little mini course. So for anyone who's going one-to-one devices or looking for digital training, you can do it in-house because you can go elsewhere. There are services that do that for you. I tell you what, off the top of my head, if you're again, this is Google. I'm Microsoft now, so a lot of this Google stuff's useless to me. But Canopy, they as a company do loads of really good training, staff and students. Yeah, Canopy. They're fantastic. Sorry, mate.
Because that's the thing. Because that's probably something to talk about anyway. We're Microsoft, and we did training for teachers. I think we were the first school online in Romania during COVID, because as soon as it hit us during Easter break, I think a case came into the country. So we did training for staff straight away. And I not trying not to do Microsoft a disservice, but I think Google's platform was a little bit further ahead when COVID hit. But essentially, it was just a meeting platform. So we had to figure out how to you were running your lessons like meetings, and you couldn't really, you could share, but then the breakout rooms came. But like, I think we were locked down for 2 years over here. So we got year 2, we got breakout rooms. The kids really liked them, so that was really nice add on. But yeah, I think we kind of went online straight away. But when I first joined the school here, I went from the state school in the UK in Tottenham. And the school that I moved, when I moved here, the school was due to move. So they weren't really investing in the old campus, which was this beautiful historical building where it was a terrible, terrible layout for a school, especially one that was growing like ours. And I was just in an IT lab, and I think I arrived and there was 10 computers and I had 26 kids in a class. So then I had to originally, so I went home and just stared at the wall for about 3 hours when I got in after my first day. And then went back the next day with a plan, put a desk in the middle, huge desk in the middle, and we ended up rotating the kids. Half of them did the lesson on computers, the other half did like an offline activity and just kept swapping. Yeah. And then we did that until Christmas that year. And then I had so many computers in this tiny room that I had this much space in between chairs. I had to like shuffle like a penguin in between chairs to get to the back. And stupidly, we were on projectors then. We didn't have smart boards then. So right at the back of the room was my projector. So every time I wanted to point to something that was important, I had to like shuffle past all these kids, run to the front, point at something right on the board, and then I'd shuffle to the back, click to the next slide, and realize all my stuff was there. So I have to get a kid to wipe it. But if it was a year 6 kid, they couldn't reach the top of the board. So I was just shuffling up and down these little tight little corridors in my classroom. But then like when we moved to the new campus, that was when it was kind of like Christmas Day where we could go shopping. We went to Bet and we picked the computers. I picked everything that I didn't think I'd get, thinking we wouldn't get it and we'd get like the couple below that. But we got everything at the top of the list, which was fantastic. But then we have a lot of staff internationally coming from schools that don't have smart boards and things like that. Mm-hmm. So we have to do a lot of training on the tech we have when they arrive. I'm probably very lucky in the UK that my state school, when I started working in there, just had the building schools for the future investment. So everything was new, brand new computers, brand new smart boards. Everything was top of the line. So I think maybe I got spoiled by that. And then when I came in, I just assumed everyone could use smart boards because they were coming from other international schools. But we have to still do a lot of training. I do a lot, and the Edtech team and even the IT manager has to do a lot of training on the OneDrive and things like that. So there's still like basic stuff. Because we toyed with the idea of, do we need to bring like back the European computer driving license or something like that? I did that for a while in the UK. We aren't going to do it in the end, but I think maybe something like that for staff, some kind of digital onboarding for staff as well, is probably going to be really important in the future.
That's what we're doing at the moment, is because I think it's really important. That's another thing I wanted to do this pod, is to talk about the realities of what we do. Because you look on LinkedIn and you think everyone is like a whiz, everyone's got the kit, everyone knows what to do with it, and we're all flying doing this amazing stuff. And it's easy to do it when you've got the knowledge. But like I said, you're one of a staff of at my school 50. How many staff you got at yours?
Teaching staff? 80, 90 now. Next year, 90, I think.
Do you know what I mean? They're not all going to be pros. They're going to, and especially if they're a long-serving teacher, they've usually got their processes and the way they work, and they're working on paper diaries. They're working on what has always worked for them, and that's fine. And so when you come in, you're like, "Well, who's this guy? He's telling me I now got to do everything on a computer." It can be difficult, and a lot of people butt their heads up against that stuff. And like I said, that's the reality of it. Is that a lot of us are trying to figure out how we do that for the best for teachers, best to save your time, save on your workload, help you out, automate some stuff potentially. But I mean, that's like top end stuff. So I mean, we're doing the same. We're trying to figure out how we can train a lot of our staff to start moving on to OneDrive, because we're still using local servers and Q drives and stuff, which I hadn't dealt with for a number of years. I was the same as you. I was quite spoiled with my last school. We'd done a lot, moved very quickly on cloud-based stuff, devices, smart boards, and we'd done a lot of training, gave a lot of time over. So where I've gone to a new school, I've almost got to restart a lot of that. And actually, there's people that are going, they don't know how to extend a screen. Like now that, so the first thing I did at my new school is we got rid of the desktops. I knew that was going to be a quick win. They were almost dying. They were on their last legs anyway. We're the same with projectors at the moment. So we're literally having to buy new ones individually and swap them out because they're just dying on us. And so we've got to get that refresh plan in place. But the laptops was the first thing we did on replicators, but then it just really threw people out, just completely. It was their way of working. You've got rid of it. And you've got to give a bit of training and support on that, because otherwise it can be that change is scary. So like I said, if you're somebody, hopefully, because this is who we want to do it for, is digital leaders, head teachers, whoever, whatever, think about the teachers you're doing these changes for, of how are you going to support and help and put that training in, because it's difficult. It's not easy to train 50 people and get them up to a same standard. I mean, I remember talking to Deb Miller a couple of years ago. She was helping with a lot of digital strategy stuff through, I can't remember what it was called. It was just after COVID, about helping with digital strategies. There was a program. I can't remember what it's called. So I was really lucky to have a couple of sessions with her, and she was showing me what they were doing up in Hull at the college. She had a whole spreadsheet of who had done what qualification, and she tracked everything that they'd done. They've got their level 1 badge, their Microsoft badge, they've got this badge, they've got that, and so on. And she knew every single department of where they were and at that training level. And that's such a good way to do it, is put it out there. So we're going to bake it into our core CPD offering now. That's what we're going to do for next year. We're going to have a very core. So I want everyone to have that central knowledge of, here's how I turn it on, here's how I save my files, here's how I share one, here's how I do this. And as long as everyone can get on board with that, fantastic. Anything above that, that's for in 2-3 years time, maybe. Like I said, we'll do some more and more and more as we go.
No, you got to think of the basic stuff. And we have staff coming in who moved from Google to OneDrive. I was Google in the UK, and when I moved, it took me a while to get used to the different ways. I imagine it's when you switch between probably Android and iPhone and back and forth.
Yeah.
But that transition, and I have staff. I used to use Apple Mac. I used to use Macs back in the day. But when I started teaching in the UK, all the computers were PC. I used to record a lot of video tutorials. And if it didn't match exactly, the kids couldn't mirror up. So I switched to PC. And now we have staff, I would say 90% of the staff come in with Mac laptops, and I'm like, I don't even know how to do Control C on this. Like, I don't know how to help you. So I need to probably. It's happened the last 2 years, so I think, and everyone just seems to come and buy Macs and Mac things, and it's okay. We can get them plugged into the smart boards, but because the smart boards have got an Android OS, it doesn't really gel that well. So, and some of the smartboard stuff doesn't work as well on a Mac, and some of the Office stuff doesn't work that well on a Mac. So it's just trying to get it all kind of flowing on their own devices as well, so they can work the way they want to. That can be challenging as well, especially if I have a black hole in my knowledge.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's such a transfer. So, because I never used to like Mac, I was the same, but then I've got one now. I had one for the past sort of 2 years, and I absolutely love it, because I've always kind of had an iPhone, and so I never really bought into the Apple sphere for a little while. But then you got the AirPods to go with it, and then before you know it, I had an iPad as well, and now I've got a Mac, and like I said, I'm fully on board with that, which is, like I said, it takes time to get used to. You're not going to just be able to pick it up and go. And I think that's the important thing to remember, is when you're sort of training staff, they're not going to be able to do that. They're going to need time to sort of get on board with it. So yeah, so glad we touched on that. I think it's such a good thing to sort of talk about as well.
And one thing for us, and it's changing next year for us, and the school I'm working at now was the first school that ever did things this way. And I think it's a habit that formed from the very small size of the school, is the teachers moved around and the kids didn't. So that was always,
You told me about this before. I find that weird.
That was a challenge because the teacher's got to move from one room to. We have 45-minute lessons, which is tight. So the teacher had to move, and sometimes you'd move floors. So that's 5-6 minutes. Then you've got to go. And then the previous teacher had to have logged off of everything they were in, and you have to log in. So that was always a nightmare IT wise, and we fixed it through lots of workarounds like barcodes and automatic things that triggered. But we did a lot of streamlining of that because we went from, in the old building, whiteboards and projectors to smart boards, and then we didn't think through that kind of the small little things like that like if a teacher had left themselves logged in, and Microsoft loves to log you into everything. And just so if you've opened up OneDrive, then you've got Word open and PowerPoint open. Sometimes you have to log out of each single one. And if you haven't done that, the next teacher comes that you're logged in, then they have to log you out, and then that caused so much of a nightmare. But we've built an extra extension onto the primary school now, so we should have subject. We've got the building we're in, so the main building of the school that will be completely just for the secondary students next year. So we've divvied that up, so everyone's got subject rooms, so the teachers can settle in. We're getting because the smart boards have got the computers built in, so we're running screens off them to do the extend. So everyone will have keyboard, mouse, screen on the table. So they should be able to make it feel a little bit more like home, have everything logged in, set up. If it's shared, I think we've got two, maybe 3 teachers sharing rooms at times. So a couple of logins preset. It should streamline the whole process. But that the teachers moving around thing and hearing the bell and having to run off and forgetting to log out, you just made it more difficult for the next person coming in. You'd leave USB plugged in as well, then you haven't got your lesson for the next one. And it was just that caused some. I wasn't IT infrastructure, but that was like human. The scope for human error laid on top of IT was so high that we constantly were just firefighting there.
And that's where strategy really comes in, is thinking about that user experience, isn't it? That's what I've always loved about having a laptop and a replicator, because I can set my lessons up the day before, and that's what I usually do. So I'd have a window open, a tab of my lessons, my PowerPoints, and I would just have that open there ready. I'd do that the day before or the night before. And this, again, I'm a network manager's nightmare because I never turn my laptop off. My browsers, tabs is my brain just constantly open. And then I just wait until it starts to crash or fail on me before I restart it. So, but I would set that up and have my 5 tabs for my 5 lessons of that day open. All I had to do was come in and plug in, and then that was it. It would just flash up on the board. It was just so quick and easy. And if you extend it, you've got PowerPoint, your starter, DNA, whatever you want to call it, up on the board, and then my register there on the laptop, and then you were good to go. You, as a teacher, that was a quick second changeover. And that was the real benefit and win. So wherever I go, that's what I always suggest, because it's so easy. It's my personal device. I've got everything I need open, ready, logged in, and there's no faffing about. If you've got YouTube videos, they're there, they're ready to go in the background, they're loaded. And yeah, it just makes a real difference when you start to think about the user and their experience a little bit, and how they're gonna sort of see it, which is super.
No, right. And I think that you gotta make it easy, and that was it. It was an unnecessary level of friction for the teacher, but it was unavoidable friction. So we just had to kind of build IT hacks that did things, and things were very physical. You probably saw me on the day. I had like a badge with my barcode on that I had to scan.
Yeah,
because then last thing you want is the kids seeing passwords on the teacher's board and things like that. So that's a friction that should disappear next year. But yeah, that's been an IT, a human/IT nightmare for the last couple of years.
I love that word as well, friction, just removing the friction. That's such a good way to put it, because it's not so much a problem or an issue. It's like I said, how can you shave things and processes down, make them smoother?
And again, I doubt he's going to listen to this, but our IT manager was like, oh, it's fine. Like, you used to do it in the meeting room. You come in, you log in, you're in. I was like, okay, you come into one of our classrooms and you try to do what you've just done in here, and then see. And sometimes it's that kind of perfect world scenario where everything works and
Yeah.
And I probably didn't see it because I'm lucky enough to have always had my own classroom because I take the kids to the IT lab to do the programming lessons. So again, for me, sometimes I don't see the issue because I got kind of the ideal setup that they didn't have. So yeah, we kind of tried to see the issue, role play it, and then see what we could do to fix it. So we got there in the end, but it was but the actual human solution that we have, like actual kids moving around the school, teachers in a location ready to go, is going to be a much better than the hacks we put into place through the IT means.
I love it. I love that focus. I think that's a theme there, isn't it? Like I said, it's that user-centered approach of looking at how it sort of actually comes across and gets used. Right, I'm going to move us on.
Like,
we're getting.
Sorry, I was going to loop, but you go. Let's go forward.
We're going to loop. I don't know. Shall we loop? Do you want to
No,
loop?
because I was just going to say that's one of my things. Because I'm like media originally, and then I wanted to become a teacher. So the only thing I had enough of in my degree was IT. So I did IT. So my lens has always been to the human experience. Like I'm not like I learned how to program through. I had to teach computer science. So, and then I did like some trainings and courses and things in it. But yeah, my main thing is like, what's the user experience? And that's one of the things that I like to prompt with the AI stuff is kind of what's going to be the end result? What's that going to look like for the actual teacher or the person interacting with it? So having that, sometimes you can go too techie. And I think having that human interface kind of level of what's the user's experience is super important.
Yeah, I'm glad you looped because I'm going to come back to it because I don't think I knew this about you. So what do you mean media? So you had a media background. You were in the media? You were...
Well, no, I did...
media? This is before teaching?
I did media studies. Well, I failed. I did okay at school. Just got into college. Then I boldly decided to go skateboarding for 2 years instead of going to any classes. So I passed media and failed everything else. And then
this is what, A-level?
I scraped into a university. I did a gap year. No, the government agency was funding 18-year-olds that wanted to start companies. So me and a couple of my mates from school, we started a media company and we did some events and we got paid a little bit of money. And I was still working in a bar at the weekends. And then I decided that was enough. I also had a girlfriend who'd gone to uni. So I just stupidly went. I thought I'm going to go to uni because it seems easier. You get given money from the government. This is where my thinking was at. Like, you get money from the government. You get cheap housing. It's great. It's better than working.
You tell me you were a hippie. I'm sorry, you weren't good at school. You were skateboarding and you took money off the government.
This is I did not go to college. I got almost kicked out like several times. And the funny thing is, I'm actually terrible at skateboarding as well. We mainly just at McDonald's, but I think it was an obese skateboarder from just eating McDonald's constantly. But yeah, so we went. So then I just got into uni, but because I'd had loads of practical experience, and we got to do a few creative things, but most of it was corporate, like filming something for a pharmaceutical company just to make a bit of money. Because I knew how to do the camera work and everything really well, I found university, like the practical side, really, really, really easy. And then I wrote my first essay, and this lecturer took me to one side and said, I think you're dyslexic. And then that kind of diagnosis. And then once I knew why I didn't like learning very much, I could kind of engage with the process a little bit more. And I actually enjoyed education. And then kind of that teacher spotting something and having a bit of faith in me has been kind of my kind of driving kind of vibe. Like that kind of gave me a bit of faith in education. Other than that, I didn't see myself as I was going to run a bar. That was my plan. I was going to run pubs and nightclubs. That was my kind of long-term plan, was go to university to get a degree, because I was the first one in my family to do it. And it kind of felt like, of that generation, that's what was happening. And then I kind of just went from there. Then that same friend from the production company asked me to do a week training course for kids on how to use editing equipment. Ones that hadn't done GCSE media but wanted to do A-level media at college, the same college I never went to. So I did a week course with them, and at the end of the week, I took a week off work, and at the end of the week, I was like, do you know what? I really like this. Like, this week teaching these kids has been amazing. So then I applied for a PGCE. I think that was very late, and then I got in August and kind of got into teaching from there, and I've been doing it ever since. So a weird kind of curveball, as in like not engaging with school at all, and then kind of like loving university, and then kind of doing the masters, did another masters, and then done loads of qualifications, loads of the MPQs. So kind of went from hating it to loving education. So I've been on a bit of a journey.
Yeah, and I think that's quite representative of a lot of people as well. And I always think I've always said this, I think they make the best teachers, the ones, because if you go straight from school to uni to then being a teacher, you never leave school. That always stayed with me. It was one of my primary school teachers who said that, like said when I was like 11. And that stuck with me, of this idea of him constantly, I think he said, like, never stopped packing my bag for school. And that stuck with me because he just went primary school, secondary school, uni, back to school for work. And so there was never any real world experience there if you're one of those teachers. So if you have that sort of break in that gap, because I'm similar to you in the case that I took, I don't know, maybe I think it was a good, say, 6 year break between uni. So I left when I was 18. I went into the outdoor education field. So I was doing an apprenticeship over in Norfolk for an outdoor company there. And I really enjoyed like the sessions, like climbing, rock climbing, abseiling. We did quad biking, archery, all sorts of stuff. And I loved doing that. And I've done that for quite a few years. But then the thing with that is your PGL sort of type companies, they pull up, they're there for the week, they drive off again, and then the next coach pulls up, and then you do exactly the same thing again with new sets of kids. So I was constantly seeing that same week. It was a little bit Groundhog Day-ish in that they would go through that same development journey and then disappear. They were gone. And so I wanted to see a bit more development over the long term. And then that's when sort of led me down the teaching route. But I was actually traveling. I was in Australia doing it. I was working in an outdoor centre when I was like, I love doing this, but it's the same here. The same feeling I had in the UK is out here. So I wasn't scratching that itch anymore. I think at that point I was 6 years in. I was working for myself. I was self-employed doing it, having a great time. But there was just this niggly little thing that wasn't doing it. And teaching just flicked a light bulb. That was it. I looked at university courses when I was out there. And I had found a course at Worcester, and it was physical education and outdoor education as a joint honours. Nice. And I was like, that's perfect. I was like, that's literally me. Like, I loved it. I loved my sport, loved my outdoor stuff at the time. And I was like, actually, I could do that and be a PE teacher. And that's what I went and did. But then the problem was I was told the entire time throughout that was, you'll struggle to get a job. You'll struggle to get on the PGCE course because of this, that, the other, leaving early, extended gap year. They were saying all this stuff went against me. But actually, it's just been a massive credit to everything that I bring as an educator, as a teacher. And I picked up the Edtech stuff as I went along. And like I said, it brings and outrounds you as a holistic kind of teacher and experience, I think. So, yeah, massive bonus, I reckon.
No, because I came super late. I was like 27 when I started teaching. So I'd done quite a lot of random, like, odd jobs. But it's great. Like, I call upon that when I want to come up with... When I always liked IT. My dad had a computer when we were like 11, so I'd always use the computer. Like, I'd like to draw on it. I like making spreadsheets and things like that to do like more visual end of it. But so I'd always kind of use computers when I did my odd jobs. Like, I did a few office jobs, and I was the person that built databases. But I think it was pre-YouTube, so I like got books from a library, like read how to make a database in Microsoft, and then made it myself. So I'd seen how to like do these things that I kind of enjoyed in practical applications, but I never thought about teaching IT or doing anything with computer science. That was completely... The only thing that comes to mind is my friend learned how to make websites when we were at school, when we were like 15, and now he's incredibly rich. So, so I would wished when I saw this big, thick HTML book getting passed around, I hadn't gone like, oh, that book's too thick. That's not for me. I wish I'd actually read the thing.
Yeah, and I know we're going to spin off on this, but I reckon that's it. I reckon that's the AI. That's the new one, isn't it? Is the ones that jump on the bandwagon now from a young age are going to be flying when it's launched properly in 5-10 years time in the jobs and stuff. I mean, we'll do another pod on that. We'll do one on possible careers or something or other, or an AI.
I think that's a really good super good to chat about.
Yeah, we'll do future of AI. Right, we've had our loop. I am going to push this on now. So we're going to do features. We're going to do features in all of our pods. This is a lot of us talking. Normally we'd have a guest at this point as well. We'll do a little bit of spiel. We'll have a guest, and you won't listen to us the entire time. But we're going to do some features, and the first one is good, bad, and ugly. So this is where every month, because we're going to try and do one a month. By the way, we're going to try and get one a month minimum, and if we can do more, we're going to do more, but at the moment we're going to commit to that. And so every month we're going to have our good, bad, and our ugly, and you can have your say on this as well. So if you want to comment, email in, we have an email, by the way, Matthew. We are control.alt.teach@gmail.com. So you can always email us in for requests, answers, whatever you like. You can send that in. But we're both going to offer our good, bad, and uglies, and you can sort of decide and choose on yours. Okay. So Matthew, can you remember yours? Do you know yours? Do you want to?
Yeah. So my good was good. It's the fact that I think AI has really had an impact on the conversation about education. So at least it might not have changed everything. It might not have changed everything that everyone wanted it to change right now. But I think people are having conversations about assessments, exams, the way we teach, what we teach, when we teach it. I think online schooling and things like that, it really opened up this huge kind of gap in this conversation where people are rushing in and giving their opinions. And I think lots of the people that want change in education are seeing AI as a good catalyst for those conversations, where it's not disrupted education, I don't think, but it's a disruptive force in terms of the conversations that we're having. And it's great. Like, I've had more conversations about teaching and learning this year because of AI than I have in like the last 3 or 4 years. It's been, and as I said, people are on board with trying new things now because AI is there, and like they're trying to upskill themselves, either doing kind of more human critical thinking activities or trying to get the kids more digitally literate. So it's been great for those conversations. It's been like double thumbs up. And you?
Yeah. I agree with you. I like you've gone broad. I've gone more specific for my good. And again, you can sort of duke it out in comments, emails, or whatever. I've gone with that Google Notebook LM is now in the UK. And I think this is a massive turn, and it's a real good use case of AI, because before this, I've been trying to recreate that in ChatGPT or Gemini or something else by just pumping a load of resources in and break this down, tell me this or whatever. So for those of you who haven't used it or had a play around with it, it's now available in the UK. We can access it. The US have had it for a little while longer than us. But what you can do is you can load in lots of documents and resources, and then you can talk and chat with those resources. And like I said, it's sort of like a mini kind of training thing, but not so much a bot as we have been seeing them now with Mindjoy, for instance, and a couple of others. But you can really use it as a good resource to then give out to people as well, and go like, right, you can load in these documents and you can have a chat and a discussion with it about the material that's within it. And that's going to be so useful to keep storing those bits and come back to them and question on some of the previous conversations you've had and bring some of that stuff down to the fore. I've only just started touching on using it. I say touch, I've literally twice. I've sat with it twice, but I've been really impressed with how quickly, like I said, you can get the answers you're looking for and just pull together some information. So I've found that to be my good this week. And that was a toss up between that. Claude has been doing something with the artifacts as well, which is a close second, I'd say, recently. Because when I say this has just come out, I mean literally a week and a bit ago.
Yeah.
It was available. It wasn't long. So this is brand new for a lot of people in the UK, unless you're using a VPN and you've been naughty accessing early. Then good on you. But otherwise, yeah. So that's my good. And you
No,
can sort of.
Notebook's cool. Like I did the training with. I went to Dan's online course last week,
Oh, I
and
caught the
then
recording. I
he's
watched it
doing
in
one on
two
Claude.
parts.
But I'm. It's the night before I fly to the UK for the Edgy Futurists.
Mhm.
So I think that I'll be on full parenting duty to make up for my days of absence on that night. But I'll watch the recording probably on the flight or something. I'll download it the next morning. So I'm looking for
Yeah.
what it's been like. Both are cool. Like the Google Notebook. Like I've been playing around with some course documents, course materials, asking questions from them. It's been like really good so far. Policies
Yeah.
is a cool one. I've been uploading some school policies
Hmm.
because it's all private. I've been from what the training said and what the guy from Google said, it's all private in there.
Yeah.
So I uploaded some school policies and I did a quick check to say like, are my policies consistent? Like, is
Hmm.
it clear? Like, have I? Because they've been rewritten so many times. Is it saying something in the staff handbook, but in the other policy, it's saying something different? So that was successful. But again, I'm the same as you. I probably played with it about four times probably.
Oh, so you've done it slightly more than
It's
me,
on the
because I
list.
thought
It's
that
on the list for more exploration. Let's say.
I like the idea of it as an interactive handbook. So as a staff member, if you're new and you're like, what do I do in this situation? What should I be doing here? What's the behavior policy on that?
Yeah,
Like, do you know what I
that's
mean?
cool. Like that's where
Something.
that's what I envisioned when I first saw like AI. That's probably a very
Yeah.
stupid use case. But I was thinking as the person that has to onboard like 20 something new teachers every year,
Mhm.
because we've been growing every year, so we've onboarded 80 staff in the last 2 years.
Mm.
So then kind of getting them up to speed with the policies has taken like a term. So if there's
Yeah.
a quick reference guide where I know everything in there is 100% coming from our documents,
Mm.
that's absolutely like that's super cool.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really helpful, and it just gets you the answers quick instead of having to read the whole document or scan it or whatever. And again, if you put it into ChatGPT, you're hoping it doesn't hallucinate. If you don't know any better, like you said, if you're doing something like that, checking a policy, if it turns around and says, "Oh, well, give them 3 lashes," like, do you know what I mean? Because it's pulling from some
And it's better
1850
than it used to
resource.
be now, ChatGPT with documents, but it forgets that it's read them. It used to, anyway. In 4's been a bit, but 4.40 has been better. But it
Mm.
used to forget that it read them after a while and then just make stuff up. And
Yeah.
that's not what you want for a new teacher coming into a school.
No, exactly. So that's why I like it. So that's my good, because I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think there'll be some real good use cases that come out of this over the next couple of weeks or so. So I'm looking forward to seeing those. Right, let's have bads. What's your bad?
Mine's over promising. Where's my like Scarlett Johansson voice? Where's my
Oh,
videos? Where's my
give
Sora?
us
Like
Scarlet.
just keep like don't promote something in
Hmm.
3 months ago and then it's nowhere. Like just do it. And probably it was announcement season, so everyone felt like they had to announce something, and
Hmm.
just like announce it when it's ready. And that's all I'm asking. Because everyone's excited, and I've seen so many really cool presentations from so many cool people that go like, "Here's this AI video of like a pirate ship in a cup," and that like I've seen it 4 or 5 times, 7 or 8, 6, 7 times. I don't know. Like it's just we know it's coming, but when? And I know Runway have done a video thing that looks really cool, but I don't know why some companies are announcing things so early and just like tease you something a little bit, and then it just never
Yeah.
appears. It's annoying.
We're in that Wild West phase still, aren't we? That early thing where it's like it's just the Cold War, who can race and get it out there
Yeah.
first. We're working on this, and we're still trying to sort of fight through some of that stuff, and it's all potential and stuff. So yeah, I absolutely see yours, because again, it's like Sora. We've been waiting for it for ages to come out and have access to it or try it out. But then you got companies that are saying they are using it, like, so they must be giving access to it to
Must be.
some.
I think you've got preferential access. I think probably the states. The states always gets preferential access.
Yeah.
I usually see everyone posting something or has the feature. Then like 2 or 3 weeks later, it gets over. I think it's UK. Then it gets over here in Romania like 2 or 3 weeks later. So I kind of have to just watch what other people are doing and wait patiently.
Yeah, just wait. I suppose that links in quite nicely to my bad. So my bad, I've gone with the rabbit. So for those of you not aware, Rabbit is the handheld, smallish device, just the red thing with a little LCD and a flippable camera. So you might have seen pictures of it. I haven't personally had my hands on it, so I will put my hands up there. I haven't actually played with it, but I have spoken to people who have, and I've seen other reviews and so on. And it just doesn't, like you said, it doesn't deliver. The idea that this is going to be an AI device that gets you away from your phone. I love the idea of it. So the humane pin, that's a Star Trek badge. That I love. That I want to get my hands on because that's expensive as well. It's because not only have you got to pay a lot to get
with that, though, isn't it? It's like once you've paid $700, you've got to pay like 30 quid a month or something just to make it work.
Yep, and like I said, if you've seen the launch video of that, there's so many features packed into it. I mean, even that, like the display,
the thing's cool. The hand thing's cool.
The gestures and stuff. That, like I said, it's a Star Trek badge, man. Like I want that, of course I do, but it's so expensive. So there's the technology divide on that anyway. So at the moment, currently, my bad is the Rabbit, and I suppose it extends a little bit to AI devices. It's definitely going to go that way. We're going to have more and more devices that are going to be powered or solely built around them. And it's like I said, it's Wild West. We're sort of going, right, well, we can make it do this, we can make it do that, and all the rest of it. How much of it will actually be the devices in 5 years' time? I don't know. They could be completely different. But at the moment, this kind of pin badge thing that's going to supposed to replace your phone or get you away from your phone, I don't know if that's the best use for it. But like I said, I suppose digging through messages, that's what I loved. If you'd watched the launch video, it was like, it tapped it and it was like, what's the gate code that Jimmy sent me? So instead of having to go and find, did he message me on Messenger? Did he put it on WhatsApp? Did it come through on a PM or DM or whatever? And it just does it for you and pulls that core information out. Like if it actually works that way, great. But like I said, at the moment, it's a bad for me.
Isn't that just a feature though? Like I suppose I don't know if what's in the Apple Intelligence. Isn't that what that can do? Like it just sits on top of all your apps, and you can just say what's my when am I going this place on my calendar or something. It can just pull it. So I think I don't know. It looked cool. Like again, I'm into the Star Trek badge. That vibe.
That's the thing with Siri, isn't it? That's what we want Siri to do. We want our smart assistants to be able to just pull that stuff out of the drop of a hat instead of read the weather report.
Is it Brilliant Labs? They do it's like glasses that look like this, but look a bit more like German clockmaker, like the very round. They look cool because they've got like the AI screen, and I thought that as like someone living in Romania and like just seeing like I can read a little bit of Romanian, but like just being that when we get to that universal translation point of AI. Like we're in that's proper Star Trek. That's the stuff that excites me is when I can just like converse with someone and of any language with like a pair of glasses and an earpiece and it's like smooth. That for me is like super. That'd be great.
Yeah, like UN style.
Sorry, MFL teachers, if you're listening.
Well, I mean that's another episode. Isn't it? I tell you what, right? We'll do that. I'll promise this one. We'll go through each subject and we'll say replaced or not.
Well, I'm gone. NVIDIA said computer science teachers are gone, so I'm already retraining.
Exactly. PEDT. Who knows? We'll have a look at it. Like I think there's some legs in that. We'll do it. Again, if you want that episode, let us know, and we'll see if we'll throw it together. If we can't get a guest 1 week or something, we'll go with that. Right. Let's go on. Ugly. What's your ugly? So we got good, bad, and then this is just the downright ugly.
My ugly is just trying to scale AI, and if it's student facing, it's expensive, especially if you want to do it safely. So I've done like a year of staff training, and we've managed to wink that for free through ChatGPT early versions now 4.0, and doing all the cool stuff it can do now for free for everybody, and Copilot, which is enterprise for us through our Office 365. But now we're trying to do it with students next year. It just costs a lot of money. Just very expensive. And like I had very big plans, but when you they all sound very reasonable. But when you like stack it up, like even people I've spoke to where you could do things on like a chat basis, but then when you add up all the tokens over a year for so many kids, and if it goes, and best case scenario, like if they're using it so many periods a day, then or in the evening using it for revision, suddenly the cost is they all end up being roughly the same. and it's expensive. And I've met a few companies which have been super nice, and like there's companies where I've met and like I've really kind of vibed with them, and they're not salesy, they're like really into it, they've come from teaching backgrounds. But then I've met a few companies that I've met a salesperson, and it's put me off straight away. They're asking me how I want to use it, but you can see they're already not listening. So I think that ugliness of, it's fine. It's easy. I'd say it's very easy to do with teachers at the moment because it's free and you can do free stuff, and I think Google in its education platform and Microsoft in its platform have got enough security things to make it safe. But anything student facing, that's more of a Wild West, and it's just that's hampered my plans, is the cost. But I understand why it costs that much, because it's just, and the company that want to do it, they're doing it like very reasonable, like, but still it's expensive. It's just very expensive. Yeah. And I think that's us for an international school. So I can imagine a state school, you've just got no chance of that coming into budget.
I think about the kid who's trying to outdo the AI. Think of the tokens they would use, like just going back and forth, trying to get past the safeguards. Like
I was trying to figure out. I'll probably post it in a couple of days. I was like, beautiful minding. Like, if there's this much tokens and there's this, the average sentence is this long, and they have this many, the average conversation is this long. How many tokens would that be in an hour? And suddenly I'm just like, it costs the same as going through a platform.
Yeah.
And is that easier than setting up your own platform, getting your API, knowing that a company's done all the brunt work and got a nice interface that teachers are easy? But like, can a state school, would my old school in the Tottenham be able to afford it? 100% no. 100% no. You're talking a lot of money. I don't want to say how much money because I don't want to out all these how much they're charging, but it's like you're already creating a digital divide through like access. And there is some free versions, but they're not very. Some of the free versions I think is sneakily using like old ChatGPT to kind of force you to go to the better one. But it can be very expensive.
And so I'll give him a shout out, and someone who's really good to follow on that is James Kay on LinkedIn. He's superb at breaking that stuff down. And so he's done and posted a few times about that, because I've had a couple of conversations with James about this. And like I said, it's the token, the cost of it. So every like request or whatever is 0.00001 like P. So every time you get a response or to use a token as part of like a request. So if it's a long one, you may use a couple of tokens, 6, 7, 8 tokens in a normal prompt. And then again, it will return it, and then you go again. So you could be using, like I said, 0.00025p each time. But you scale that, like you said, to 30 in a class. You got a half a year group doing it. So that's 4 or 5 classes in half a year are using and doing the same thing at the same time. Before you know it, that's £1. It's £1 a day that you've used on prompts and tokens and so on.
That's not including staff using it as well. If you wanted to do any like pre-built lesson planning bots and things like that, or that were built for your school's development plan or something you wanted to roll out. But yeah, like that's just student usage, staff usage on top of that, which would be using it for lesson support. It just blows it up massively.
Yeah, especially when, like I said, with a little bit of training, you get some prompt craft in you. You can do it with the free version. Like you got 4.0 now. You've got Gemini, you've got Copilot. They're all free. They're baked in with your work account if you're using them for school and so on. So a little bit of knowledge can go a long way on that one as well.
Yeah. And with the terms and conditions is, and this is just me random spitballing, but is this kind of that cost of entry for a school to do it? You're automatically going to drive kids' AI usage underground. It's going to be something they do at home, because unless the school and my school, certainly, I don't think we're going to go to every parent and ask them for permission. Because what happens if 20 of them say yes and 5 kids say no, I don't want my kid to use AI, and then suddenly like that's a digital divide you've created. So it's easier to go through a platform that everyone can use, but you're just automatically making it something that the kids use in their own time and not something they're using with the teacher, essentially.
Yeah. I tell you what I love, and there's, again, we'll do some stuff on this, but Eton have put out their homework cookbook. I think they're up to version 3 now. If you haven't seen that, if you are using AI, get on it. They are such good prompts for homework. Like, imagine this, a future where like homework is a prompt and you give it out and it's just, you post that on your LMS, on your Google Classroom, whatever you're using, and that's it. They copy and paste and put that in. They spend 20 minutes with this bot that's going to question them, and it's going to come back and forth and go on. It's going to offer activities and revision and this, that, the other, and it's going to tell you what you got wrong and how and so on, guide you through that process. I think that's such a good thing. And this is how we first got talking, is because it's the red tape of the usage, which Google have now gotten rid of, because they're going to offer it to teens. So they've dropped their age to 13. If you're on a Google School, if you're on Gemini, you can turn it on, but have policies in place, think it through, don't just flick it on. But there is the potential very soon that we can have kids that have access to Gemini or some kind of AI bot, and the same Copilot will follow soon, where homework is a prompt. And how much easier is that going to be? Because again, they're going to have that knowledge from going back and forth with what could be a virtual expert. So I mean, yeah, there's some good there.
That's cool. And then will that be a divide? Will, like, if you as a Google school, you're going to have access to something, like your kid's going to have access to something that me as a Microsoft school won't? Like, because the Copilot's still got that restriction. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out between the different platforms. I can imagine if Google's done it, Microsoft will create some form of Copilot that's, because Perplexity has now changed its terms and conditions. So it's 13 plus now, which is really cool. So that's given me something I can go back with in August, because I track that.
I didn't know that.
I honestly, like, I track, the first thing I do is go terms and conditions. And then someone mentioned it was 13 plus on another podcast I was listening to, I think, or a YouTube clip. And I jumped on immediately, and that had changed to 13 plus. And I was like, great. Because that had always been that 13 to 18 with permission as well. So Perplexity is really cool. You don't get access to all, like, I think it's called Pages, which is their equivalent. They're kind of like where you can put little notebooks and stuff together. But
I love
just
that.
the fact I can I've got to figure out what the policy looks like, but the fact I can train the staff on Perplexity and know that students can use that for research and do a little bit of AI, digital literacy, through the research process. So if they've got to do research reports for English, we can do it through Perplexity. And things like that. So that's kind of cool.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a good idea. We'll do more on that as well. Right, so let's finish this off. Ugly. Mine is a similar vein to yours, about students. Yeah, I'm just going to wrap this up because then we're going to go on to quickfire. My ugly, and this is plain and simple, is AI and social media. I don't want it. I didn't ask for it. I don't think it needs to be there. I don't think it's going to benefit anyone. It's just going to cause problems, and you might as well just chuck petrol on a fire. I'm just going to put it out there. Feel free for anyone to convince me otherwise, but I just don't think it's needed.
Are you talking about like the meta bot, or just like the algorithm nonsense?
All of it. Like, well, algorithm, yeah, but again, there's a case for it to be an algorithm, but however, it's just going to supercharge that misuse, isn't it? Like I said, we would late to it as schools and understanding and kids' use, and like I said, it's just cutting them at the knees at such an early age, ruining confidence and so on. And there's just so much negativity around it. And this is someone that's coming from someone who can see the good in social media, and it's how I met my business partner Ben Edmonds, who's an engineer, who's local in Swindon. We would never have met without it. But you have to have a conscious effort to be nice on social media. You have to really do it. So when it's going to be so easy to have AI in WhatsApp, I don't want AI in my WhatsApp. Like, I can write a sentence or two, like, do you know what I mean? Without the help of AI, I'm all right with that. Thanks.
But this is the thing, like, if kids are just going to, like, if Microsoft are going to do what they're doing with it just being an operating system, probably Google too.
Mm-hmm.
If the kids are just going to have it everywhere, like social media in their operating system, but then there's this black hole where in schools they can't interact with it, that's just weird. That, like, we're handcuffed by these, like, terms and conditions and can't really do anything, whereas they can just leave school and just experience it everywhere.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's the same. But we'll have an episode, mobile phone debate. We'll find some schools. We'll have a yes and no's, and we'll do that one, because that's a similar thing, isn't it? It's like I said, you can't use phones in school. Well, why not? They've all got a certain level of tech in their pocket. Like, you can start getting that divide a little bit lower if you can at least start to access some of these platforms a little bit with the thing you carry around every day, it makes sense on that side. But equally, yes, opens you up to bullying and photographs and all sorts. So yeah, there is absolutely a debate on that, and it's the same with this. It's like, what can we sensibly do and sensibly visit? And the reason that this is on top of my head, because I visited a school literally 2 weeks ago where their policy is that phones are okay during lesson under direction. And like I said, they just hammer it at lunchtime, put them away. You don't need them. It's for classrooms and all the rest of it. So I'm going to hopefully go back and really have a look at what they do and how they go about it. So there's a conversation for the future as well. Okay, right. We are over our hour mark. This is longer than we thought, but I'm going to move on. This is our final feature. We're going to try and go to quick fire questions. So we might have had some of these covered already. I'm just going to try and find where I've done with them.
I also can't see quick fire questions anywhere, so this is going to be really interesting for me.
Yeah, I know. I put these on the Figma. So if you're not that, you've let yourself,
I've revealed that I've not checked the Figma. I've outed myself.
Yeah, you've not checked Figma. Right, okay. So here we go. These are going to be our quick fires. We might add to these, take them away. We'll see what we've got. So just dead quick, one or the other, answer away. Apple or Android?
Android.
Microsoft or Google?
Probably Google.
Teams or Classroom?
I'm going to say Teams just because I haven't used Classroom in a while, but Classroom is cool.
Okay. ChatGPT, Gemini or Claude?
I use Gemini the most, but probably ChatGPT mainly for things, but Gemini for, I don't know. Gemini.
Oh, interesting. Just for you guys at home as well, I know Matt's cheating now because he's jumped on the Figma. It's told me that he's popped up. He's trying to see the questions. Here we go. Favorite bit of Edtech? This could be anything.
Say that again.
Favorite bit of Edtech?
Classroom visualizer. There you go. It's an odd one.
Great one. That's my one as well.
Low-fi bit of Edtech.
Such an undervalued bit of kit and so cheap.
I ordered more for
phones
next year.
or no phones?
Sorry?
Phones or no phones?
I'm going to go no phones.
iPad or Chromebook?
Chromebook.
Interactive panel or whiteboard?
Interactive panel.
Oh, and here we go. Last one. Visualizer or screen grab?
Visualizer for me. Live's always better.
Live. I like it. Right, we're going to pose those to every guest. We're going to do that every week, and it's just literally going to be that quick fire. And then we'll add some more features in. We've got other stuff in the oven that we might do. So we might mix the features up. Might not be the same every... I keep wanting to say week, but it's going to be month. I feel like we're running a TV show here or something.
Maybe when we get...
but we're going to make...
When we find our sea legs, we can probably do it weekly.
Yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Please subscribe. We're going to put this out on as many channels as we can. So we'll have it out on YouTube every week with a video. We're going to have it out on Apple, Google, all your good stores. And please do get in touch. We want feedback on this. It's the very first one. We're going to do as many as we can, sort of as often as we can. If there's stuff you want to see in it, on it, us talk about, if you want less of us talking, we'll just do pure guests or whatever. We're figuring it out. Like I said, we're finding sea legs at this point. So anything from you, Matthew, you want to wrap us up, finish us up with?
AI Education 25 tickets are on sale.
Oh my God, that was my good. I had a good. I was meant to say I had a second good. That's right. So we start. That's more loops, Matthew, more loops. We're coming back around. We started with AI Education for 24, AI Education 25. Tickets are now live. They're out there. Me and Ben, we're going to be back there as well. Yeah, I know you've got a huge lineup of amazing speakers.
An extra person's jumped on the lineup. It's going to go out on Saturday. So there's a little. I don't know when this is going to go out, but it's a little teaser.
There you go. So you might see or hear this before or after. We'll see. We're giving it away. We'll post this in like December or something, and we'll be way behind. Right, perfect. Well, I shall leave it there. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will do this again in a month's time, shall we?
Yeah, see everyone in a month. Or hear from us in a month, or I don't know how it works on a podcast.
Right, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.